My husband was in a car accident and lost his memory. He remembers everyone, except me, forgetting our 10 loving years together. Instead, he half embraces his young secretary, staring at me with icy, piercing eyes. Apologized to Lynn. I thought his memory was playing tricks on him, mistaking Lynn for me, but later I realized he was faking amnesia. So, to get back at him, I pretended to have amnesia too and seduced his best friend into bed. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Julian once again didn't answer my call, and we had a huge fight. He drove out in a downpour to buy me durian just to cheer me up, and then the accident happened. When I heard the news, my mind went blank, and my limbs turned ice cold as if doused in freezing water. I didn't even bother to change clothes, bolting outside barefoot, losing my slippers along the way. When I found the hospital room, Larry in his white coat was just closing the door behind him. Seeing me, he looked somewhat surprised. "Sis-in-law, how did you get drenched like this?" I was completely soaked and looked rather unseemly, but I couldn't care less as I asked urgently with a choked voice, "Julian, how is he?" Seeing how anxious I was with tears about to fall, Larry averted his eyes and stammered, "Julian just got a bump on his head, otherwise he's physically fine. Is he inside?" As I was about to push the door open, Larry hurriedly stopped me. "Sis-in-law, let me finish what I have to say first." Seeing the hesitation in the person before me, my heart, which had just settled, was now stuck in my throat. "Are you hiding something from me? Is Julian really all right?" Larry nodded, then pointed to his own head. "He got hit here, and he's acting a bit off. I don't know how to explain it to you. You'll understand when you see for yourself. But sis-in-law, you have to promise me that no matter what you see later, you won't get angry." On the way here, I had already regretted it. I shouldn't have lost my temper with him, shouldn't have argued with him. If Julian were to come to any real harm, I think I wouldn't be able to go on living either. As long as Julian is all right now, I'd be willing to do anything. I'll never argue with him again. But I never expected that when I pushed open the hospital room door, what I saw was my husband tenderly embracing a young, fashionable girl in a white dress. Her name is Lynn. She was Julian's secretary. But because I didn't like her, Julian had already fired her a month ago, and today's argument with Julian was also because of her. Disturbed by the sound of the door opening, Lynn saw me and hurriedly pushed Julian away, flustered like a startled fawn. Seeing her here, my heart clenched, and I turned a cold gaze toward the man on the bed. Julian furrowed his brows and met my gaze with unfamiliar eyes. Seeing the bandage wrapped around his forehead, my heart suddenly stung with guilt and sorrow. Just as I was about to step forward, Julian suddenly turned his head and asked Lynn in a gentle voice, "Who is she?" Lynn glanced at me nervously, hesitating before she spoke. "She's your WI, she's MS. Mavis." Julian reached out his hand. Lynn placed her hand in the man's palm. "Are they our friends?" Lynn quickly shook her head. Watching their hands suddenly clasped together, a surge of anger welled up from the depths of my heart. The man looked at me again, his once affectionate and beautiful peach blossom eyes now tainted with a thick layer of disgust and displeasure, and I quickly realized something, widening my eyes, my voice trembling in disbelief. "You've lost. Get out." The man spat out a single icy word, cutting me off. "I've been Julian's girlfriend for 7 years and his wife for 3. Making a full decade we've been together. In these 10 years, he's never once spoken harshly to me. Even when we've argued, most of the time he yields to me, letting me vent my anger and dissatisfaction. When I finish venting, he always comes to embrace me and coax me back. The fiercest words he's ever said to me were, 'Mavis, haven't you made enough of a scene?' Today was no different, except that later he apologized again, took the car keys and said he was going out to buy me durian. I never would have thought that just one trip out would make him forget me. 'Julian, I'm your wife.' I still spoke up to remind him of this fact. I thought he would immediately let go of her hand and draw a clear line with Lynn, but Julian didn't. He just furrowed his brows and stared at me, scrutinizing me from head to toe. His gaze lingered on my mud-stained feet for half a second before he coldly and firmly declared, "You're not my type." I froze. I still remember when Julian knelt on one knee to propose to me, holding the ring. He said with devout sincerity, "Mavis, if you don't marry me, I'll surely die alone in this lifetime. Please, take pity on me, won't you?" At that moment, I was deeply moved, but I suppressed my joy and let out a haughty little hum from my throat. "I don't believe you. It's not like I'm the only girl in the world, but you're the only one I like. Without you, I'd die." The gentle, devout young man from my memories overlapped with the cold, indifferent figure before me. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face as I stared at the bandage wrapped around the man's forehead, convincing myself that Julian had merely lost his memories. As long as he wasn't injured, as long as he was still alive and well, that was enough. As long as he was here, he would eventually remember our past. remember that I was his wife. We still have a long life ahead of us. It's okay, take your time. Julian doesn't believe I'm his wife. The next day, I brought our marriage certificate to show him. The man stared at the photo in the red booklet and the wedding date, remaining silent for a long while. I kept watching the shifting lines on his face, my voice full of hopeful tenderness as I asked, "Does it ring any bells?" Julian lifted his head, and when those unfamiliar, icy eyes met mine, my heart sank. The fragile hope I'd clung to vanished in an instant. He still hadn't remembered. At that moment, the door to the hospital room was opened from the outside. Lynn's charming and sweet voice followed as she entered. "Julian, I made you pumpkin and lily porridge, and also the little buns you like. Try." The voice abruptly stopped. Lynn looked at me with a nervous and uneasy expression. "Ms. Mavis, why are you here again?" The fury that had been piling up in my heart was completely ignited. Without this Lynn, I wouldn't have gone to argue with Julian. I wouldn't have quarreled with Julian, he wouldn't have driven out late at night to buy me durian, and he wouldn't have had the car accident, wouldn't have lost his memory. All that had happened these days made it impossible for me to maintain my usual elegance and composure. I strode over and raised my hand to slap her hard across the face. A sharp smack sound, accompanied by my voice filled with resentment and anger. "Ms. Lynn, I've told you more than once. Julian is married, he's a married man, he's my husband. Please put away those inappropriate thoughts and stay away from him. Don't you even have basic moral decency? Shame on you as a college student, didn't your parents teach you how to behave?" Lynn covered her face and turned to run out, but she was stopped by Julian, who had rushed over from the bed. His face darkened as he half embraced Lynn, gently patting her back while glaring at me with icy coldness. "Apologize." I watched as the husband who once loved me deeply held another woman in front of me, and even demanded that I apologize to her. My heart ached. Naturally, I wouldn't apologize to this woman who coveted my husband. "Julian, we really are married. You are my husband, that's a fact. If you don't believe the marriage certificate, you can come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to check. 3 years ago." So what? I was desperate to make him believe me, but seeing his reaction only made my heart grow colder. Julian fixed me with an icy glare and suddenly said, "Lynn told me last night, you're my wife because our families are close, and my mother forced me to marry you, but I never loved you. She lied to you. We fell in love freely, you pursued me. You said I was the only one you loved. Enough." Julian interrupted me with impatience in his eyes, saying with disgust, "I heard it was because you made me drive out late at night to buy durian for you that I got into an accident. How could I ever like a spoiled and domineering woman like you? Then haven't you thought about it? Why would you drive out late at night to buy durian for me? Because you wanted to make me happy, because you liked me. I like gentle and considerate women, like Lynn here." My heart ached suddenly. Even though I knew the man before me had lost his memory and that's why he was saying such things, it still hurt deeply. Watching Julian carefully protect Lynn, she flashed me a smug smile when he wasn't looking, then timidly tugged at Julian's sleeve and said tearfully, "Julian, you should still let me go. What we're doing is wrong." Julian tightened his arm around Lynn, lowering his head to comfort her gently. "This isn't your fault, I'm the one who can't let you go." The pain grew sharper. Julian looked up at me again, all warmth gone from his eyes as he said coldly, "Listen, Ms. Mavis, Ms. Mavis, even if I weren't suffering from amnesia now, I couldn't possibly live with a woman like you. The person I love now is Lynn. Please stop pestering me." I knew that no matter how angry I got now, no matter how much I argued with them, it would all be useless. Suppressing the bitterness in my throat, I forced myself to calm down, suddenly remembering something. I lowered my head to look and quickly raised my hand. "Julian, this is the ring you gave me, it matches the one on your hand. You had it custom made." The man's dark eyes fixed on my hand, a flicker of emotion flashing through his gaze too quickly to catch. "The ring is engraved with our initials. My forever lover, this was our vow." I removed the ring from my ring finger and handed it over. Julian stared at me silently, his eyes dark and unreadable. We stared at each other for about 3 seconds. Just as I was wondering if he had remembered something, Lynn lifted her head, pouting angrily and said, "Julian, the buns I made are going to get cold. I got up at 6 this morning just for you. If you let them go cold, I'll never make them for you again." Hearing this petulant complaint, my expression turned cold. Julian quickly snapped out of it, patted the girl's head, and smiled dotingly. "Let's eat them together now." Lynn proudly and happily looped her arm through Julian's, pulling him toward the hospital bed. "Julian, aren't you going to take a look?" Julian halted, turned his head to meet my gaze, then suddenly lowered it as he removed the ring from his finger and tossed it in a perfect arc into the nearby trash bin. "This is my answer. Julian and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Our families lived right across from each other. My mom always said that aside from having a decent face, I was hopelessly stupid. To prevent me from being bullied in the future, after 2 blood tests and abortions, she gave birth to a younger brother for me when I was 7. Ever since my brother was born, my mom's temper has grown increasingly worse. She'd explain my homework to me, but if I still didn't understand after 2 attempts, she'd kick me out of the house. Sitting on the steps wiping my tears, I ran into Julian returning home from cram school with his mom, who then took me back with them. Julian's mother was both a senior math teacher and homeroom instructor. When she learned I'd been kicked out for not doing my homework properly, Julian's mom patted my head and told me I could do my homework at their place from then on, asking her or Julian whenever I didn't understand something. Julian was in the same grade and class as me, and he was also our class monitor. He was a very warm-hearted and responsible class monitor. He said that as the class monitor, it was his duty to help me improve my academic performance. With Julian's mom and Julian helping me, my grades gradually improved. My mom was too busy taking care of my younger brother to pay much attention to me. Seeing my academic improvement, she didn't even bother asking where I went or calling me back for dinner. Compared to my own parents, I felt more like family with Julian's mom and Julian. From elementary through middle to high school, Julian and I attended the same schools. Before the college entrance exams, Julian asked me which university I wanted to attend. I didn't have any particular thoughts. I just wanted to go to a university far from home. Julian asked me to apply to the same school as him so we'd have company, and I didn't refuse. Julian is 3 months older than me, and I've always treated him like an older brother. We both got into University A, and right after the freshman orientation ceremony, Julian confessed his feelings to me. I quickly agreed. Transitioning from brother to boyfriend was something I could easily accept. After all, Julian was handsome, academically excellent, and exceptionally athletic. In an era flooded with teen idol dramas, he embodied young girls' perfect fantasy of an ideal partner. He was also incredibly gentle and considerate toward me. After spending so much time together day and night, it would be impossible to say I didn't have any feelings for him. We dated for 7 years and only got married after he succeeded in his entrepreneurial venture. All my classmates envy me. We were each other's first love, childhood sweethearts who went from campus to wedding gown, though we had our share of arguments and breakups. Fortunately, we stayed true to our original feelings and made it through together. In our class, only my relationship with Julian blossomed into marriage. Now we both have thriving careers and a happy family. They could truly be called an immortal couple. I feel incredibly lucky and happy. I never imagined Julian would fall for another woman. Lynn was a name I first heard from Julian during one of our dinner dates outside. Julian's phone rang, and a panicked, timid girl's voice came through the other end. At first, she was apologizing, but soon she was just crying uncontrollably. Julian showed no mercy, calling her a pig-brained idiot for mixing up the reports from both companies, saying even a dog would be smarter than her. Julian had always been gentle and refined. This was the first time I'd seen him lash out so viciously at someone, especially a girl. After he hung up, I said, "Don't you think that was too harsh, yelling at a girl like that?" Julian replied with a dark expression, "Not firing her is already being lenient. Anyone else would have been kicked out long ago." "Then why didn't you fire her?" Julian paused before explaining. "She worked her way out of rural poverty through education. It wasn't easy. She has an unmarried younger brother, and their father passed away early. Their mother single-handedly raised them, and now her health isn't great either." I nodded, understanding that Julian must have seen a reflection of Julian's mom in Lyn's mother. My mom said Julian's father ran off with a hairdresser in the 3rd year after moving across from us, vanishing without a trace all these years. It's been Julian's mom alone shouldering the mortgage while covering Julian's living expenses and tuition. No easy feat for a woman. I've always known Julian was a kind-hearted soul, just like how he once took my hand and led me home. Later, I heard Julian mention Lyn's name over and over. Whenever she made progress, Julian wouldn't hesitate to praise her in front of me, saying she was teachable, a perceptive and hardworking young girl. Julian mentioned Lynn with the air of a senior looking at a junior, which I didn't pay much attention to, until Lynn helped a drunk Julian home. I watched her gaze at Julian with adoration, listened as she reminded me to make him honey water, and even helped him undress, acting every bit the dutiful wife. At that moment, a sense of discomfort settled in my heart. I told myself I was overthinking it, that I trusted Julian's character. He would never get involved with his secretary. But on my mother's birthday, we had agreed to go together, when he received a call on the way saying that an important client had come from Star City, and since they rarely visited, he had to go and treat them to a meal. That night, it was already past midnight. Julian still hadn't come home. Worried, I gave him a call. The call was answered by Lynn, who said Julian was drunk and resting at the hotel. I asked her to tell me the address, but she refused and hung up on me. I didn't sleep a wink that entire night. The next day Julian came home early in the morning to change clothes, and I had a huge fight with him, forcing him to fire Lynn, and yesterday, I discovered he was still in contact with Lynn on his phone, which is why I argued with him. I don't know Julian whether he's genuinely lost his memory or simply fallen for someone else. Larry handed me 2 durians. Sis-in-law, don't you trust Julian's character, after all these years together? Have you ever seen him flirt with other women? When you broke up, so many girls sent him love letters, yet he remained devoted to you, practicing male virtue. He even bought breakfast early in the morning and waited outside your dorm to beg for reconciliation. A lovesick fool like him, who can't live without you. It'd be more believable to say pigs can climb trees than to claim he'd ever fall for someone else. Don't you think? I pressed my lips together. So he really has amnesia? Larry nodded eagerly. Probably temporary memory loss. There's some blood clot in his brain. Once it clears up, he'll remember everything. But he remembers that Lynn. I think Julian might just be confused and mistook that little secretary for you. I said coldly. We don't look alike. And our personalities are nothing similar. Larry bootlicked. That little secretary can't compare to your beauty, sis-in-law. She's just better at sweet-talking. Didn't you tell Julian that I'm his wife? I did, Larry said with a bitter expression. But you know how Julian is. He doesn't even listen to you. He wouldn't believe me either. What's more, he's particularly resistant to hearing your name now. Just mentioning it makes him storm off. He's a patient, and I have to consider his feelings. I looked down at the 2 durians in my hands, feeling as heavy as they were, unsure of what to do. Larry continued, Sis, these past few days you and Julian must have had several unpleasant moments. He once told me he wished you'd occasionally pamper him. I think maybe subconsciously that idea is still in his head, which is why he's drawn to gentle and considerate behavior now. He's probably hinting for you to comfort him. Comfort him. I froze, thinking back to past arguments with Julian. He was always the one who comforted me. Sis, don't be upset. I'm a doctor, and I can assure you Julian will remember everything eventually. As for that little secretary, she's just temporary entertainment during his amnesia. Once his memory returns, their relationship will end. Don't take it to heart. Julian, can you still remember? How can I make him remember? Larry says I always argue with him, making him hold resentment. Julian really wishes I could comfort him. I don't know how to comfort him. Thinking of Lynn making porridge and steamed buns for Julian. I also bought groceries and cooked, although my mother favors sons over daughters. She never let me do housework since childhood. She always said that women who are too capable would have a hard life later on, and she hoped I could be a bit lazier. In all these years with Julian, apart from ordering takeout, most of the cooking has been done by him. My heart softened a little. After spending the morning cooking with my phone, I packed the barely passable meal into a lunchbox and brought it to the hospital. But when I pushed open the ward door and saw the 2 people on the bed locked in an inseparable kiss, my brain short-circuited. The 2, disturbed by the intrusion, turned to see it was me. Lynn blushed and pushed Julian away, flustered as she got up from the bed to straighten her clothes. Ms. Mavis, why didn't you knock? I knocked on the door, but they were too absorbed in their kiss to hear, watching Lynn's lips, glistening and flushed crimson, and Julian. Those dark eyes clouded with desire. That look used to be only for me, but now, he's intimately locked in a fiery kiss with another woman on the bed. At this moment, I felt as though I couldn't breathe. Even if this man has lost his memory, I still can't accept it. It feels filthy. The entire ward was filled with a stench that made me nauseous. I didn't go in. Instead, I turned and left. On my way downstairs, I ran into Larry and Marius. You're here at the hospital to see Julian again. Larry walked over with a smile, but when he saw my reddened eyes, he raised an eyebrow. Did Julian make you angry again? I wiped my eyes with my hand and just wearily muttered not wanting to tell anyone who knew Julian and me about what I just witnessed. Larry quickly changed the subject when he saw the lunchbox in my hand. Sis, you brought Julian some food. Before I could react, he took the lunchbox from me and, noticing the band-aid on my finger, exclaimed in surprise, Sis, did you make this food yourself? After calming down a bit, I nodded. Then I'll deliver this food for you, sis. Larry volunteered to deliver meals with Marius. After walking a few steps, he noticed the other wasn't following and turned back. Marius, what are you looking at? Nothing. Marius gazed with dark eyes at those long, pale legs, not turning away until the woman's slender figure vanished from sight. Only then did he leisurely resume walking. After witnessing that scene in the hospital, I didn't feel like going back anymore. Not long after, Julian was discharged, but he didn't return to our home. Rumor has it he bought a place outside and moved in with Lynn. Larry called to comfort me, advising me not to seek out Julian for now. His head injury wasn't too serious, and he should regain his memories soon enough. I asked Larry, how soon is soon? He said maybe 3 months, maybe half a year, But even if Julian regains his memory, he's already cheated. Could I really pretend nothing happened by then? In the dead of night, the image of those two embracing and kissing passionately would inevitably surface in my mind. The thought of my beloved husband now lying in bed with another woman tormented me endlessly. I felt physically nauseated, got up and ran to the bathroom to vomit. But couldn't fall asleep no matter what. I really want to go find Julian and bring him back, but I know he hasn't regained his memories yet and won't come back with me. He really hates me now. The vibrating ringtone of my phone echoed from outside, piercingly clear in the quiet bedroom. Without even turning off the faucet, I rushed out in haste. I tapped to answer and had just put the phone to my ear when my mom urgently blurted out on the other end, "Jay is in trouble. Find a way to help him." Jay is my younger brother. From my mother's few words, I grasped the gist of the matter. Tonight Jay took his girlfriend out for her birthday. At a street food stall, she got harassed, and he ended up in a fight that landed him in the police station. The other party's parents vowed to make Jay rot in jail. Jay is currently a senior in college, the apple of the family's eye. My mom asked me to seek help from Julian, to see if he could put in a good word with the other party. Listening to the sobbing on the other end of the phone, I felt annoyed. After all, Jay is my own younger brother, the one I watched grow up. I may despise my mother, but I don't feel the same way about him. I got it. I'll talk to Julian about it. After hanging up, I had a terrible headache. Now Julian has lost his memory and is very resistant to me. Even if I reach out, he might not be willing to help, but I still had to try. I made the call. The moment the call connected, I anxiously spoke first. "Julian, something's happened to my brother. Can you help?" But after my voice faded, there was no immediate response from the other end. Only faint, messy smacking sounds and heavy, rapid panting from a man could be heard. Before I could speak again, a woman's coy voice came through. "Julian, you seem particularly excited today. Do you really like me playing nurse? Should I buy a JK skirt next time? I'll be the student and you the teacher." "Okay," Julian lazily replied with a okay. My head was buzzing, and all the blood in my body seemed to freeze. The sound of the plastic bag tearing was so familiar. Realizing what the two people on the other end of the phone were doing right now, I immediately hung up the phone, a wave of nausea rising as I covered my mouth and rushed into the bathroom again. After vomiting, my head felt heavy and my legs weak, my body drained of strength. Turning off the faucet, I leaned against the wall as I stumbled out. Tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. Sitting dazed on the edge of the bed for a while, I thought of Jay's situation and picked up my phone again, opening my contacts and WeChat. I needed to see if anyone else could help. Apart from Julian, none of my friends seemed to be doing particularly well. Larry is just a doctor and probably can't help much. My finger hovered over a WeChat name called Marius. Who is this person? I opened the chat window. There was only one message: "I am Marius." Marius is the crown prince of Beijing's Cleveland family, and also Julian's investor. He's undoubtedly more capable and influential than Julian. I just don't know if he'd be willing to help with this. I've had dinner with him twice before, accompanying Julian. There's no one else to turn to now. Swallowing my pride, I sent a message. "You there?" After sending it, I realized how silly those two words sounded. They might not even remember who I was. Just as I was about to recall the message and call them on WeChat instead, a reply quickly popped up. "Mavis." He actually remembered me. "I am Mavis, Julian's wife, Mr. Marius. We met at the hospital that day. My brother had an accident. Could you please help me?" After sending it, I felt I was being somewhat shameless. Glancing at the time on my phone, it was already past 11. Who asks for help at such a late hour? He probably cursed me in his heart for disturbing his sleep. I was already prepared for the possibility that he might reject me, delete me, or even block me. But suddenly, he called me. My heart pounded wildly as I stared at the incoming call. Without hesitating for long, I answered. A deep, magnetic male voice soon reached my ears. "What's wrong?" I briefly explained my brother's situation, to which he replied, "Wait for my message." After hanging up the phone, I still felt a bit unreal. Marius, is he really going to help me? Just past 12 o'clock. My mom called me with the good news that Jay and the other party had reached a settlement. I opened WeChat and sent Marius a thank you. "Just thanks, he was actually still awake. Let me treat you to a meal. Deal." Seeing this message, I felt somewhat conflicted. After all, Julian has lost his memory now. If I were to invite Marius to dinner, I'd have to go alone. Forget it, I'll think about it tomorrow. Just as I ended the conversation and was about to put my phone down to go to bed, it let out a ding. A text message had arrived from an unlisted number. When I opened it, I saw the sender had only sent me a video. I clicked on the video. It was an adult-rated AV, and the man's face was captured with unusual clarity. My husband, Julian. I knew exactly who had sent this. It was so disgusting. I wanted to delete the text message and block the number, But after thinking about it, I held back. I saved the video. After I found out that Julian slept with Lynn, I've been living in agony every day. I cannot accept my husband having sex with another woman, but he did all these things because he had amnesia, and I don't know how to blame him. I even blame myself. Wondering if he wouldn't have gotten into that car accident and would still be a loving, happy couple if I hadn't always argued with him, if I had occasionally taken the initiative to coax him, and if I had kept him home when he went out to buy me durian. We're both 28 now, for over 2 decades. We've been a part of each other's entire lives. It's like a person's bones and flesh are connected. A complete separation is difficult and would surely be agonizing. Our marriage is the same. But it's really dirty, so disgusting. What should I do? I covered my face, my heart aching as if pierced by a knife, my entire being sinking into a lightless abyss with no way out. I scrolled through WeChat, unsure of who to confide in. Just then, WeChat dinged with a message from Marius. I opened the chat to see he'd sent me a location pin. It was at Star-Lord Club. A dialogue box appeared on the input screen, and soon a message came through, "Want to come over for a while?" I glanced out the window, pitch black, nothing visible anymore. It was already past 9, though I did want to treat him to dinner. This timing felt a bit inappropriate. He should have already eaten by now. Star-Lord isn't really a suitable place for dining either. I was just about to say I'd already gone to bed when another message came through. "Julian and Larry are here too. Your husband seems a bit drunk. Do you want to come pick him up?" I replied, "Okay, Star-Lord Club, Julian. How long do you plan to play with that little secretary?" Larry's voice drifted through the crack in the door to the entrance, making me pause just as I was about to step inside. "Another month should do it. Your memories will return in just 1 month, Larry teased, his voice like a gleaming blade of cold steel plunging straight into my heart. My entire body felt as if plunged into an icy abyss. I stared at the man inside with utter disbelief in my eyes. He sat on the sofa with a glass of red wine in hand, legs casually spread, exuding an air of refined elegance. That face was unmistakably the same Julian who had loved me as if his life depended on it. Yet he said, "Try a different flavor, go ahead. Take advantage of your amnesia to sample a few more. It's not like anyone can stop you now." Larry's words carried an underlying meaning. I gripped the doorknob so tightly my knuckles turned white. Feeling all the blood rush to my head in uncontrollable fury, Marius suddenly glanced in my direction, and our eyes met. My heart skipped a beat as I was about to push the door open and confront the person inside. Marius subtly averted his gaze. "If you don't want to be controlled, you can get a divorce." My hand, poised to push the door, froze mid-air. "That's a pretty low move." Julian locked eyes with Marius and said with utmost seriousness, "I have no intention of changing wives." He quickly added, "I love Mavis." Hearing that word love made me utterly sick to my stomach. If you love her, why deceive her? Don't you think you're being utterly despicable? Julian and Marius have always had a decent relationship, and he didn't feel the other was blaming him either, with no one else around. He thought carefully and admitted honestly, just like Larry said, eating the same dish day after day for 10 years, no matter how much you love it, would eventually grow tiresome. The same goes for people. Mavis may be the woman I love most, but she's almost 30 now. Naturally, she can't compare to those girls in their early 20s. They're more energetic, more adventurous. Once you've tried them, you realize youth really is better. I really envy you and Larry for still being single. I simply couldn't believe my ears. These words actually came from Julian's mouth. Looking at the man inside, I couldn't match him with the gentle and refined husband in my memory. How could he be so filthy? I didn't push the door open. By the time I got downstairs and sat in the car, tears were streaming down my face. Memories of the past flooded my mind. The marriage I thought was happy and perfect was actually rotten to the core. My husband, who had always been tender and affectionate toward me, was in truth filthy and despicable. For over 20 years, we've known each other a full 2 decades. How could he hurt me like this? The red light at this intersection. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my emotions refusing to calm down. The more I thought about it, the more it hurt. It felt like countless steel needles piercing through my body. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a flash of green light. Before I could take a closer look, I instinctively stepped on the gas. Suddenly, a large truck swerved into view. I frantically turned the steering wheel, and with a loud bang, crashed into the flowerbed beside the road. Just before my consciousness faded into darkness, I faintly saw the figure of a man running toward me in desperation. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the hospital. Apart from a slight dizziness and headache, I didn't feel any other discomfort in my body. After the nurse removed my foredrip, she told me, "Your husband stayed here with you all night last night. He just stepped out, probably to buy you breakfast. He should be back soon." I responded with a soft Gazing at the blinding sunlight outside the window, feeling somewhat dazed, The nurse carried the iron tray out and had just opened the door when she spotted the tall, handsome man standing at the entrance. Glancing at what he held in his hands, she turned back to me with a smile and said, "Your husband is back with breakfast for you." At the word husband, my heart suddenly twisted painfully. I looked up and saw Marius. He closed the door behind him and walked over with the breakfast. He was alone. The elegant and dignified man walked to my bedside. As he looked down at me, I stared back at him, my mind in a daze. "Are you feeling unwell anywhere?" A deep, concerned voice reached my ears. I shook my head, gazing at his face. The man wore only simple black clothes, yet the aura of power seemed distinctly branded into his presence. Even without knowing who he was, one could tell at a glance he was no ordinary man. Moreover, his height of over 1.8 meters and his naturally blessed looks alone were enough to make one's heart race. Recalling the way the young nurse looked at him just now, I gazed at his broad shoulders and narrow hips, and my heart fluttered. I smiled sweetly. "Honey, don't worry, I'm fine." Marius had just placed breakfast on the nightstand. Hearing that, his body suddenly stiffened. He turned to me, frowning deeply. "What did you call me?" I blinked, then tentatively called out again, "Honey." The man's handsome brows furrowed slightly tighter as he stared at me for a moment before reaching out to press the bedside call button. Soon, the doctor and nurse came in to examine me. Marius went out to speak with the doctor while I had breakfast in the hospital room. When he returned, I handed him the bowl and spoon. "Honey, my hand hurts. Will you feed me?" Marius looked at my alluring cat-like eyes, then at the wound on my head. If I hadn't lost my memory, I wouldn't be looking at him with such dependent trust. "Hubby, my hand really hurts so much. Don't you feel any pity for your wife?" Facing my accusation, Marius S. Adams apple bobbed. But he ultimately said nothing. He walked over, reached out, and took the bowl and spoon. After eating my fill, I watched the man pack up all the trash and take it out. When he came back in, I got out of bed again and threw myself into his arms, hugging him. "Husband, did I scare you yesterday?" Marius's body stiffened slightly. He looked down at me, seemingly wanting to say something. But in the end, he couldn't resist reaching out and hugging her, letting out a low, deep "I'm sorry for making you worry. I'll definitely be more careful in the future." With that, I stood on tiptoe and planted a loud kiss on his cheek. The man suddenly pushed me away. I thought I'd been too forward and made him dislike me, but my sharp eyes caught the unmistakable redness of his ears, a strikingly vivid blush. Marius didn't meet my gaze. He reached into his pocket, pulled out cigarettes and a lighter, then, as if remembering he couldn't smoke here, said, I have something to deal with at work." I nodded obediently. "Husband, go do your work. I'll wait for you." Obediently at the hospital, Marius's cheeks flushed even redder when he heard husband. But he still didn't tell the truth. Anyway, Julian wouldn't know now. I stayed in the hospital for a week. The scar on my forehead had healed, and the doctor, confirming there were no major issues, allowed me to complete the discharge procedures. I sat in Marius's car, watching him drive in the complete opposite direction from my home, but I didn't say anything. Marius took me to his house, a large flat overlooking Dragon Lake, located in the heart of the city where every inch of land is precious. Julian had previously said he wanted to buy a house here, to be neighbors with Marius, but this area was home to old aristocratic families of the capital, powerful and influential. Although Julian had succeeded in his startup and was now a hot new tech mogul in the capital, in the eyes of these old aristocrats, self-made individuals were at best parvenus, not even worth their notice. The old aristocrats were extremely exclusive. Even when selling a house, they were unwilling to sell it to Julian. For a while, because of this matter, Julian was in an extremely bad mood. Even during meals with me, he was constantly making calls to pull strings, which led to arguments between us. I believe a home only needs to be cozy and conveniently located. There's no need to buy such an expensive house. It's not worth it. But Julian insists that living here is a symbol of status. I watched the sunset enveloping Longhu Lake. It was truly beautiful at this moment. I still feel this house is quite worth its price. At the very least, watching the sunrise and sunset from here every day is a wonderful sensory pleasure. Would you like to take a break? The man embraced me from behind. A crisp, familiar scent of fur would tickled my heart, stirring a tingling sensation. I pulled his hand away and turned around, standing on tiptoe to hook my arms around the man's neck, pressing my lips to his. Marius's eyes darkened with turbulent emotions. After just a brief pause, he quickly cupped the back of my head, turning the tables to take control. We'd kissed several times in the hospital these past few days, and the man had gone from awkward stiffness at first to practiced enthusiasm. Every sensory nerve trembled under his intensely seductive and skillful teasing. The man pinned me down on the living room sofa. Just when I thought I was about to succeed, The abrupt vibration of a phone shattered the intoxicatingly ambiguous atmosphere. Marius lifted his head from beneath my clothes, the corners of his eyes flushed red, his ink-dark pupils simmered with stormy intensity as he braced himself above me with one arm, freeing the other to pull out his phone. After glancing at the caller ID, he made to rise. I hooked my arms around his neck again and, as he sat up, planted myself squarely in his lap. Husband, don't go. Marius had his lower abdomen tensed up, yet he didn't push me away, catching a glimpse of the number on the phone. I grew even bolder in teasing this man. Marius grabbed my hand, his breathing heavy and scorching, his voice hoarse and deep. Let me take this call first. I was being good and didn't move. Marius finally answered the call, coldly uttering 2 words. What is it, Marius? We're short one player. I don't have time. You haven't come out for days. Something's not right. Could it be, honey, I'm hungry? The voice on the other end of the phone suddenly stopped, followed quickly by an exclamation. Marius, when did you get a wife? Marius hung up the call directly. The other party didn't call back either. Marius fixed me with his hawk-like sharp black eyes. Without any guilt, I puffed up angrily and said, after work hours are for spending time with your wife, no going out to fool around. The man paused for half a second before asking, what would you like for dinner? Sweet and sour spare ribs, stir-fried pork, and spicy and sour shredded potatoes. I thought Marius would order takeout, but instead he placed me on the sofa, stood up, and walked toward the kitchen, opening the refrigerator. Curious, I quickly got up and followed him inside, watching as he skillfully took out the ingredients, washed them, and began preparing. You're not planning to cook yourself, are you? The man didn't look at me, washing vegetables under the faucet while giving a low hum in response. You can cook. Marius looked up at me. How did you know I couldn't cook? Me. Was he deliberately trying to fish for information from me? I forgot all about it. I gave an awkward laugh and, under the man's scrutinizing gaze, immediately spewed out a string of flattery. Honey, I had no idea you weren't just handsome and great at making money, but also such a good cook. I must have saved the galaxy in my past life to end up with such an amazing husband like you. I feel so lucky. The man's gaze turned amused. My scalp tingled with unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that my acting might have been too clumsy. Could he have noticed something? But he was clearly moved just moments ago. If it weren't for that phone call, I might have succeeded by now. Honey, I won't bother you anymore. I'll wait outside while you focus on cooking. I turned and fled. Only after escaping that gaze did my emotions begin to settle slightly. With nothing to do, I glanced at my phone. So many days had passed, yet not a single person had called me. I couldn't quite describe the feeling in my heart. It was as if I had long grown accustomed to it. Inside the private room, Larry, after he put down his phone, the person next to him immediately asked, Marius has a wife. Larry, he hummed in affirmation. Looking at his phone screen, his brows furrowed. When did he get married? Julian's question was met with everyone shaking their heads, indicating they hadn't heard any rumors. Logically speaking, Marius would definitely have sent wedding invitations to these close friends if he'd gotten married. Not giving them any notice meant it was just a fling. Julian didn't take it to heart. Find someone else to come over. Larry, however, clutched his phone, unresponsive. Someone next to him nudged him. What's wrong with you? Larry looked up at Julian. I feel like that woman's voice is very familiar. It sounded a bit like sister-in-law's voice. But these words, Larry didn't dare to say out loud. Someone nearby exclaimed in surprise. Could they know each other? Julian scoffed. Just a plaything. What does it matter if they know each other or not? Larry thought about it and agreed, immediately calling another person over. I thought Marius brought me back because he had ulterior motives. I wanted to sleep with him, and he surely wanted to sleep with me too. But unexpectedly, on the very first day he brought me home, he made me sleep in a separate room, claiming it was for my recovery. He even locked the door at night, making it impossible for me to get close to him. For the past month, I could only stare at his lean, powerful waist, fantasizing about the well-defined V-line and abs beneath his shirt, and drooling over those occasional lustful, provocative glances he'd give. After all, I'd been deprived for so long. Before, I was devoted to my marriage, seeing only my husband. Even going months without intimacy didn't bother me. But ever since I found out about Julian's affair, that moral restraint vanished from my heart. He cheated on me by pretending to have amnesia. So why should I stay chaste for him? The occasional intimacy with Marius only stoked the fire of desire burning hotter within me. But Marius always stopped at the critical moment. Even when I could see he was barely holding back, he would still pat my head, fasten my bra, then get up and return to his room, closing the door behind him. He stayed inside for a long time before coming out. I knew he must have gone to take a cold shower. I could feel the icy aura emanating from him. I vaguely sensed that he probably still had some consideration for his brother, Julian. And I wanted to get revenge on Julian. The longer I spent with this man, the more sober he would become. I knew very well that I had to act fast, otherwise, where would I find such a gem again? Even if I cheat, I need to find someone better than Julian to really piss him off. After Marius went to the company, I was left alone in the house, bored, with nothing to do but scroll on my phone. I was playing Candy Crush when the text message came in. MS, Mavis, could we meet and talk? This number wasn't unfamiliar to me. The thought of that video made the nausea and suppressed anger surge up again violently. I knew what the other party wanted from me. I replied with an okay, and after they sent the meeting location and time, on my way there, I sent a text message to Marius. Inside the dessert shop, it was a weekday, so there weren't many people inside. As I entered, my eyes immediately found the woman seated in the glass-walled booth. Once I was seated, the waiter came over to ask for my drink order, and I requested a glass of plain water. Lynn took a report from her bag and handed it to me. I didn't take it, so she placed it in front of me. MS, Mavis, I'm pregnant. The words pregnant and pregnancy instantly emptied my mind. It's Julian's child. Lynn set down her juice, lowered her head to caress her flat stomach, then looked up, speaking with a mix of triumph and earnestness. MS, Mavis, can you please grant me this? Will you divorce Julian? A baby can't be without a father, and I don't want my child to be born illegitimate. Please, just consider it a good deed. I immediately picked up the water glass in front of me and splashed it at her. Why should I make way for you? Lynn bit her lip, her eyes reddening, as she glared hatefully at the old woman opposite her. It's not my fault your child is illegitimate, it's because he has a shameless mother like you, who seduces married men and acts as a mistress. You, as his mother, don't even think about him, so why should I do you a favor and step aside? But Julian doesn't love you anymore. What good is dragging out a marriage like this for you? Lynn gritted her teeth as she stared at the woman across from her, suddenly curling her lips into a vicious smile. You know what? Julian told me he has zero interest in you now. Even if you stripped naked and slept beside him, he wouldn't get hard. Living with you, he can see his whole life laid out in front of him. No excitement, just pure torment. If I were you, I'd take advantage of whatever looks I have left, divorce him ASAP, and find another man. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in a living widowhood for the rest of your life. I thought I had already given up on Julian completely, yet hearing those words, my heart still twisted with an uncontrollable ache. So, in his heart, I no longer sparked even a flicker of interest. So, he was truly miserable being with me. I gently set down the water glass in my hand. Even though my heart was in turmoil, I maintained a calm expression. Julian, if he wants a divorce, tell him to come talk to me. After all, he's the one who cheated. As long as he agrees to give me a bit more property, I'm not unreasonable. Upon hearing the words split property, Lynn's face darkened. Just then, her peripheral vision caught sight of a man hurriedly entering the room, and her previously haughty, challenging gaze instantly turned pitiful. MS, Mavis, I know I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry, but the baby is innocent. It's a little life. I really can't bear to abort it. You and Julian still don't have a child. If you could just agree to adopt this baby, you'd be his mother from then on. I promise you, I'll go far away and never see Julian again. Please, I beg you, will you agree? Lynn rose from her seat and knelt on the floor. I can give up everything. Those expensive gifts Julian gave me before, I know they're part of your marital assets. I can return them all to you. I just want to keep this baby. What are you doing? Julian roared sharply, his expression grim as he strode over and yanked Lynn to her feet. I raised my head to meet the gaze of the man with an unpleasant expression. The marks scattered across my snow-white, porcelain-like swan neck particularly striking, the mottled red traces trailing all the way beneath my clothes. I did it on purpose. Lynn chose a good spot. Julian furrowed his brows as his angry gaze fell upon those marks. I naturally caught that look in his eyes. Just then, I saw Marius entering and immediately went up to greet him. Darling. Hearing this darling, Julian felt a sudden pang in his heart, remembering that he was supposed to have amnesia. He had no choice but to keep up the act as before the icy words could leave my lips. I had already thrown myself onto Marius. Honey, she says she's pregnant with your child. Have you been cheating on me behind my back? Marius lifted his eyelids to glance at the two people beside him. Quickly understanding the situation, he patted my back gently. That child isn't mine, but she showed me the test report. It's been 2 months. I stomped over angrily to grab the report from the table. Marius glanced at it casually before raising his eyes to look at Julian, his expression half smiling. Congratulations, President Julian, you're going to be a father. Julian froze for a second before snapping back to reality. Who are you calling husband? Mavis. I turned my head to meet his gaze. My eyes filled with confusion and unfamiliarity. I'm obviously calling my own husband. Your husband. Julian belatedly realized, looking at my arm wrapped around Marius S. And Marius didn't even try to avoid suspicion, he immediately flared up, yanking me over. Don't you even recognize what your own husband looks like? Who are you? Don't touch me, or I'll sue you for sexual harassment. I struggled to break free from his shackles. But Julian was too strong, I couldn't pry his grip open at all. I could only cry for help. Honey, he's bullying me. Come help me. Mavis, what the hell kind of game are you playing? She's lost her memory. Marius uttered a few cold, simple words. Julian suddenly froze, the anger on his face vanishing instantly. What did you say? Marius walked over, pried Julian's hand away, and pulled me to his side. In a frigid tone, he said, she was in a car accident and lost her memory. She hit her head and forgot everything from the past. Julian frowned. Are you guys acting? Do you really think I have time for such nonsense? Julian looked at Marius's aloof and aristocratic demeanor. This was Marius after all, why would he bother playing along with some woman's act? Honey, is this man your friend? I looked up and asked in confusion. Marius patted my head. Sort of, he kept touching me inappropriately, I don't like him. Honey, can we go home now? Marius nodded, took my hand, grabbed the bag I'd left on the table, and led me away. Julian wanted to chase after them, but was quickly pulled back by Lynn. On the way back, my phone rang. I answered the call right in front of Marius. As soon as the call connected, an angry and furious male voice came through first. Mavis, you're pretending, aren't you? Lynn told me everything. You never lost your memory, you did it on purpose. Marius stopped the car and took the phone from my hand. Julian, if you have something to say, ask me. Stop harassing her. Marius, she's my wife, what the hell do you think you're doing? We'll talk later. Marius hung up the phone directly and blocked the number. After sending me home, Marius went out again. Golden Noble Club. Julian drank while telling Larry about the ambiguous situation between Marius and me. Larry finally realized that the sweet, delicate woman's voice from that earlier phone call had indeed been mine, but they couldn't figure out how I could possibly be connected to Marius. At that moment, the private room door was pushed open from outside. Marius strolled in casually. Julian slammed his glass down with a bang, and charged forward angrily to grab him by the collar, demanding, Marius, did you fucking sleep with my wife? Julian thought about those marks on his neck. He was no naive young man at his age, he'd experienced everything, and naturally knew exactly what they were. The mere thought of his wife being touched by Marius made Julian want to kill someone. Julian, calm down, let's talk this through, there must be some misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? He was all over my wife right under my nose. Mavis has lost her memory. Marius stated the fact once again. Julian subconsciously didn't want to believe I would betray him either. After all, we've known each other for 20 years, he knows how much I love him. And he doesn't quite believe Lynn's words either. If I hadn't lost my memory, I definitely wouldn't have been flirting with other men. When did this happen? A month ago, at Huijing Hospital. You can check the records. Julian thought about how over the past month, whenever they called Marius, he rarely came out, so he was with Mavis. You fucking slept with my wife while she had amnesia. Julian gritted his teeth even harder. Marius, do you fucking understand? You can mess with anyone, but you messed with my wife. I treated you like a brother. How can you face me? Julian's eyes burned red, and he threw a punch. Marius didn't dodge, the punch landed squarely on his face. I waited until 11 o'clock at night. I figured Marius probably wouldn't be back today. After all, for rich young masters like them, this certainly wasn't their only residence. He didn't reply to my message. I could also sense that he was avoiding me. I turned off my phone and prepared to sleep. Just as I was about to turn off the light, I heard the sound of a door opening outside. I immediately got out of bed, slipped on my slippers, and opened the door to go out. Marius changed into slippers and walked into the living room. Seeing me, his handsome brows furrowed tightly. Why aren't you asleep yet? Honey, what happened to your face? Marius had a slightly swollen cheek, clearly from being punched. I hurried over, reaching out to touch him, but he grabbed my hand and pushed it away coldly. It's getting late, get some rest. With that, he didn't look at me again and returned to his room. I could guess who had beaten him. And thinking of how this man had looked after me these past few days, I felt a certain amount of guilt. I grabbed a hot towel to apply to him, but he had locked the door. I kept knocking. Marius found it noisy and finally opened the door. I followed him inside. Marius returned to the sofa and sat with his legs spread, a lit cigarette held between his long, bony fingers. He took puff after puff, the pale smoke blurring his exquisitely handsome face into an unusually cold expression. I could naturally tell he wasn't in a good mood. I went to his bathroom, re-soaked the towel in hot water, wrung it out, and then knelt on one knee by the sofa to apply it to his face. The pleasant scent of gardenias wafted into my nostrils. Marius glanced over. I wasn't wearing any underwear. The man suddenly grabbed my hand. I looked up and met his gaze, blinking. "What's wrong?" Marius took in the innocence in my eyes, then thought of what had happened earlier. Suddenly, he stubbed out his cigarette and tossed it into the nearby trash bin before pulling me forcefully onto his lap. I thought he was going to be intimate with me, yet he merely gripped my jaw with his hand, forcing me to look up and meet his gaze. Under the bright crystal chandelier, the man's flawlessly handsome face leaned in as he uttered in a deep, dangerous voice, "Mavis, I could sleep with a married woman to help you take revenge on Julian, but I don't want to take advantage of your vulnerability." Gazing at that irresistibly alluring face, I felt my throat burn with desire, and the heat of his body beneath me. His dark, smoldering eyes never left mine for a second. I understood what he meant. I watched the sweat beading on his forehead and heard his noticeably heavy breathing. I tossed the towel aside and wrapped my arms around his neck. "Marius, you didn't take advantage of me. I know exactly what I'm doing." With that, I tilted my face up and pressed my lips to his. As I expected, Marius truly satisfied me. Although the initial experience wasn't great, his stamina was excellent, and his skills improved with each encounter. I originally planned to sleep with him just for one night, but then felt that a single night wouldn't do justice to my month-long efforts, under his insatiable and vigorous passion. We stayed indoors for 3 days and nights without leaving, even ordering takeout for meals. Julian called me several times, but I hung up as soon as I heard his voice and didn't reply to his messages either. That evening, as Marius and I were heading downstairs to grab some food at the nearby commercial street, we got cornered by Julian at the neighborhood gate. "Mavis." Julian stubbed out the cigarette under his foot and quickly strode toward me, but before he could get close to me, Marius blocked his way. "Marius, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Marius gave him a cold look. "Mavis is my wife now, stay the hell away from her." "Your wife?" Julian was absolutely furious, raising his fist to throw another punch. "Honey, be careful." Marius swiftly caught Julian's hand this time. He turned to me gently and said, "Mavis, I need to settle something with him. You go back first, and we'll come out later." I nodded worriedly and replied, "Then don't get hurt." Marius said all right with adoring eyes, watching the woman enter the residential area. "Marius, we're brothers, how could you do something like this?" Marius turned back and gave Julian a cold, scrutinizing glance. "Brother, are you even worthy?" Julian froze for a moment. "If it weren't for the fact that you married well, honestly, I wouldn't even look twice at what little you have to offer." Julian's face darkened instantly. "Have you two been sneaking around together all along?" "No." Marius let go, lit a cigarette, narrowed his deep-set eyes, and chuckled hoarsely. "We haven't exchanged more than a few words these past years. Now that I've gotten my wish, I really ought to thank Larry. He came up with a brilliant idea." Marius turned away, adding cheerfully, "She only forgot you." After I went upstairs, Julian called me again. He said Marius had deceived me, that he was actually my husband. Naturally, I didn't believe him. He sent many text messages, but I didn't reply to any of them. My mom suddenly called me and asked me to come home for dinner. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Julian sitting and chatting cheerfully with my mom. The moment he spotted me, he immediately stood up warmly and gently to greet me. "Mavis." As if nothing had ever happened between us. But when I thought of that video and looked at this face, that visceral sense of disgust surged up again. When he reached out to grab me, I dodged. I had long suspected my mother wouldn't call me back for no reason. "I'll go cook in the kitchen. You have a good chat with Julian." My mom went to the kitchen in high spirits. I spotted several gift boxes on the coffee table at a glance. Hermes, luxury watches, cigarettes, and premium wine. No wonder. "Mavis, have you really forgotten me? Was it you who asked my mom to call me back?" "You wouldn't see me, so I had no choice but to resort to this." Julian stared at me, his eyes filled with sorrow and pain. "Marius really lied to you. I'm your husband, and mom can prove it." He pulled the marriage certificate from his pocket and handed it to me, then showed me the hand with the wedding ring. "The ring on my hand matches yours. They're a pair. I had them custom made by a designer. They're one of a kind in the whole world." I had the designer engrave our initials inside these two wedding bands, fearing I wouldn't believe him. Julian pointed this out specifically and uttered these tender English words. "My forever lover, this is our vow." How familiar these words sounded. Not long ago, I'd used these very same words to win him back. Seeing me press my lips together, silent for a long moment, Julian said eagerly, "If you don't believe me, we can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." "Yes, I believe you." Julian sighed in relief, then his face quickly darkened. "Mavis, Marius lied to you. I won't let what he did to you go unpunished. Now, come with me to the police station." I interrupted him. "That little girl we saw at the dessert shop a few days ago, she's pregnant. Mavis, she and I aren't what you think. I didn't betray you. You've always been the woman I love most. I just got drunk and did something foolish. I stared at the panic on the man's face. So, you cheated. I won't let that child be born. The position of Mrs. will always be yours, about your situation. I know you were tricked by him because of your amnesia. As long as you come with me to the police station to report it, I can let bygones be bygones, and we can live a good life together from now on. Let bygones be bygones. I don't remember anything from before. I glanced at the ring on my finger, closed the marriage certificate, and said with absolute certainty, I don't know why I married you, but I can say for sure I'd never like a man like you. Mavis, we grew up together. You loved me so much, but now I don't remember any of it. I cut him off again. Watching this man's eyes turn red, I realized that 2 months ago, I must have looked exactly the same way. No, I should have been even more heartbroken back then, because at that time my heart and eyes were filled with him. I never imagined he would deceive me. I had loved him with such trusting sincerity. Yet the man I loved stabbed me right through the heart. He probably didn't hurt as much as I did. If we were childhood sweethearts, if you truly regarded me as your wife, if you really loved me so deeply, then why wasn't you the first person I saw when I opened my eyes in the hospital? Why wasn't it you who cared for me by my side? Mavis, you can't blame me for this. Julian said resentfully, it's Marius. He had ulterior motives toward you. He didn't inform me. If I had known you, I interrupted coldly. But you didn't call me once, as my husband. Didn't you notice I hadn't come home for a whole month? If we were truly close, we'd be living together, wouldn't we? Julian turned pale and explained nervously with guilt. Mavis, actually I was also in a car accident earlier, hit my head, so I forgot about you. Now you remember. Are you sure I'm your wife? Julian nodded eagerly. Of course, we have a marriage certificate, but you feel like a stranger to me. Mavis, come home with me. I'll help you remember. The phone rang. Julian took it out, glanced at it, and answered with a frown. What is it? Before his assistant could speak, Lynn's shrill voice came through. Julian, are you coming to see me or not? If you don't, I'll jump off your company building with the baby. Don't you dare. After Julian left in a hurry, I had a meal with my mom and then went back. Married tycoon cheats with subordinate. Mistress fails to force marriage despite pregnancy. Commits suicide by jumping. That very evening, this scandalous news happily claimed a spot on Twitter's hot search list. My phone kept ringing non-stop, with messages flooding in on WeChat and QQ. Even the long-dormant alumni group chat was buzzing with activity today. Mavis, did Julian really cheat on you, as expected? Men change when they get rich. Even you and Julian couldn't escape this worldly curse. Sigh, I don't believe in love anymore. Mavis, I always thought you were living happily. Turns out every family has its own troubles. Sigh, I'm free tomorrow if you need to get out and clear your mind. This is why you shouldn't marry someone too outstanding. Take my old Lee for example. He doesn't earn much but at least he's devoted to me. These simple, ordinary days are the happiest. Don't you think, Mavis? I didn't reply. My phone rang. It was a call from my mother. I didn't want to answer at first, but I still wanted to hear what she had to say now. Mavis, Julian cheated on you, didn't he? I told you long ago to hurry up and have a child, but you wouldn't listen. Now some other woman got pregnant first. What if she gives birth to a son? What will you do then? In the end, I was still disappointed. After hanging up, I blocked the number. I covered my face. Tears streaming down, footsteps approached from behind, and the man embraced me from the back with a sigh. Do you really like him that much? I remained silent. He gripped my chin, exposing my tear-streaked face to his dark, heavy gaze. How can I make you like me? Looking at Marius's gloomy face, before I could react, he leaned down and pressed fiercely against my lips, kissing me with rough, violent intensity, completely unlike his tender, gentle manner from days before. Under the man's ferocious assault, the sadness and sorrow in my heart quickly dissipated. Floating in a daze, half opening my bleary eyes to look at the man above me, I think I might be starting to understand Julian a little. An occasional change of taste isn't so bad. The next day I slept until the sun was high in the sky again. Perhaps because I slept well, seeing the messages on WeChat again didn't feel quite as painful. Marius had already gone to the office, but he left breakfast for me. I sat at the dining table, scrolling through Twitter while eating. Julian's mom's phone call suddenly came through. When I saw it, my heart shrank with unease. After answering, I heard crying on the other end. Mom, Mavis, if you want a divorce, Mom supports you. My nose stung as tears fell. Mom, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, it's me. I didn't raise Julian right. I've failed you. I've failed you. I wiped my eyes, my throat choked up, and no sound came out. Mavis, you don't have to feel burdened. Even if you divorce Julian, you'll always be my daughter. I said I wanted a divorce, but Julian refused. He thinks I've just lost my memory and forgotten my feelings for him. He believes that once I remember, I'll surely regret it. He wore the white shirt I love, took me to my favorite restaurant, walked through the park we enjoyed strolling in, and revisited our elementary, middle, high schools, and university. He recounted all the things we used to do together, telling me those stories over and over again. He was lost in memories of the past, repeatedly emphasizing how strong our bond had been, yet my expression remained blank throughout. Julian looked desolate as he cautiously asked, "Still can't remember anything?" I look at this face as if a lifetime has passed. It hasn't been long at all, yet I seem to have grown strangely calmly accepting this failed marriage of mine. Gazing at the blue sky and white clouds overhead, and the university couples walking past hand in hand beside me, seeing the pure, sweet smiles on their faces, I used to laugh with such joy and happiness too. I shouldn't regret getting married, even if the man I loved has now become hypocritical and ugly, but I had the privilege of his most beautiful and purest days, and that is enough. I shouldn't punish myself for his mistakes. It's time for me to start anew. Julian, Mavis. Can we not get divorced? Julian pulled me into a tight embrace, holding me close as he pleaded. Mavis, I'll treat you so well from now on, even if you never remember. It's okay, I'll make you fall in love with me all over again. Don't fall for someone else, don't leave me, I can't live without you. Julian, you once said you'd die without me, yet you still cheated. Julian's body stiffened abruptly, his grip around me loosening involuntarily. I pushed him away, meeting the unease and apprehension in his eyes with a faint smile. Actually, I never lost my memory, I was lying to you. Julian's eyes filled with disbelief. Mavis, what are you saying? Because you lied to me too. I lied to you once, so now we're even. Julian's eyes turned red with anger as he snapped. So, you slept with Marius just to get back at me? I nodded. You could say that. That night I went to the Golden Club and overheard your conversation with Larry. You said eating the same dish for 10 years felt tedious, that young girls were more skilled and versatile, and that I couldn't compare. Julian, who had been furious, felt his anger instantly deflate upon hearing these words. He looked at me with pain in his eyes. It's my fault. I hurt you. Yes, you did hurt me. I nodded calmly. Can you give me one more chance? The man's eyes were pleading. After a moment of silence, I shook my head. No, I'd rather not. Seeing the brokenness in the man's eyes, I finally confessed to him honestly. Julian, I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. Julian keeps dragging his feet. I sent him that video from my phone, telling him I could never pretend these things never happened. Every second spent with him makes me feel utterly disgusted. In the end, he agreed to go with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate. Since he was the at-fault party for cheating during our marriage, as compensation, he was supposed to give me all the assets and leave with nothing. I refused and proposed a 60-40 split of the property, 60 for me, 40 for him, because back then, his kindness to me was genuinely real. Without him and Julian's mom, I don't think my life would have been any better than it is now. On the day we got the divorce certificate, Julian asked if I wanted to have a farewell meal. I refused, waved at him, and said goodbye forever. My mother didn't support my divorce, so I didn't go back home after it was finalized. I left Julian our marital home, didn't take it, and left it to him. After the divorce, I used my share of the assets to buy a new house. I moved all my belongings to the new place, ready to start a new life. Marius keeps coming over to my place from time to time. I originally wanted to draw a clear line with him, but at my age, I have physical needs too. Since I don't plan on remarrying anytime soon, being with him is definitely more enjoyable than buying toys or hiring an escort. Marius said he was single, without a girlfriend, so we became friends with benefits. Later, I got pregnant unexpectedly, with twins, no less, and we upgraded from friends with benefits to co-parenting partners. Life can only go on like this. Julian's side story. After divorcing Mavis, I didn't marry Lynn. I hated her. I hate her for sending the video of us in bed to Mavis, letting Mavis witness my betrayal, my wretchedness and filth. But what I hate more is myself. As Larry said, though the rotten idea was his, he didn't force me to cheat. Flies don't swarm around an uncracked egg. That Mavis and I ended up this way is entirely my own damn fault. I couldn't control my lower body. I deceived Mavis. I deserve all of this. I gave Lynn two choices. If she insisted on having the child, I would pay her the minimum monthly child support, but she shouldn't expect anything else. There was no way I would marry her. I've only ever loved Mavis, and even if I die, my assets will only go to my mother and the woman I love. The woman who had been crying and making a scene, even threatening to jump off a building to force me into marriage, decisively chose the second option. She aborted the child and took my 2 million, then left my world. See. This is the kind of woman who claims to love me and can't live without me. How hypocritical. I know very well that I still love Mavis, so I've decided to win her back. I know Mavis finds me disgusting, but I'm also certain that at her age, she won't find a man with better prospects than me. Marius would never marry her. I worked hard to gain favor in front of my future mother-in-law, asking old classmates to put in a good word for me. I created chances for us to meet by coincidence, believing time could heal all wounds, that we would eventually reconcile and reunite. But I never imagined that a year later, Marius would actually propose to Mavis. Mavis also gave him a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. On my mother's birthday, Mavis came over for dinner with the kids and Marius. My mother didn't want to see me, but I came anyway, selfishly. I hoped she wasn't doing well, even if she were to divorce and bring 2 children with her in the future. I would still be willing to accept her. I could treat her children as my own, but Marius didn't give me that chance. He peeled shrimp for Mavis, remembered her likes and dislikes, and took meticulous care of the 2 children. Even toward my mother, he showed great respect. By the end of the meal, Mavis didn't spare me a single glance. Her eyes held only her current husband and child, the smile at her lips so tender yet so painfully bright. It made me realize with painful clarity that I had completely lost her. From now on, we would be 2 parallel lines that would never intersect. After seeing them off, my mother sat down with me for a rare heart-to-heart talk. She urged me not to dwell on the past, to find another woman and start anew, to stop being foolish. I don't want to worry her anymore. I know everyone must look forward, no matter how much I regret or blame myself. Time can't flow backward. Later, I dated several other girlfriends, all very young girls, but with them, I never again felt that initial sense of novelty. I feel utterly exhausted, and I deeply miss my past marriage with Mavis, those days of mutual support and tranquil happiness. After my mother passed away from breast cancer, I dissolved the company. While sorting through my mother's belongings, I came across her medical examination report. She had known for a long time that there were nodules in her breast. The doctor had said the mortality rate of breast cancer wasn't actually that high if detected early. It could have been cured, but she didn't go to the hospital for treatment, nor did she tell me. My mother never forgave me. She always despised men who cheated. My father ran off with a hairdresser, yet over 20 years later when I became successful, he came back expecting me to support him in his old age. Fortunately, he eventually collapsed at the mahjong table and never woke up again. My mother used her own money to arrange his funeral. She said she didn't regret marrying my father, though she never had a good husband. She had a good son like me, and I even brought her a good daughter-in-law. Life is often disappointing. Compared to others, she's already living quite well. She's content with what she has. Yet in the end, I turned out to be trash just like my father. She must have been very disappointed. The first spring festival after my mother passed away, I came home early from work, alone in the empty house. I opened the bedroom door, saw the wedding photo on the wall, and said with a smile, "Honey, I'm home." But no one answered. The house was so quiet it felt dead inside. Every year on this night, Mavis, my mom, and I would gather around the table to make dumplings and spring rolls, cracking melon seeds while watching the Spring Festival Gala. What felt so ordinary back then now seems incredibly precious. I lay on our marital bed. Even though Mavis threw away all our past belongings when she left, I still managed to find them all again. My stomach ached from hunger, but I didn't want to move. Mavis's shadow always appeared in my mind. What was she doing now? Was she with the children setting off fireworks? Or watching the Spring Festival Gala with Marius? Mavis and I once had a child together. But back then, my startup had failed, my mother was hospitalized, and we still had a mortgage to pay, so Mavis had an abortion. If only that child were still here. If I hadn't cheated, Mavis and I would probably be very happy now. When the New Year's bell rang, I took a fruit knife and slashed it hard against my wrist. Blood gushed out instantly, dripping onto the floor. I leaned back on the sofa, quietly waiting for death to come. As my consciousness blurred, I remembered what I had said to Mavis when I proposed. "But I only like you. Without you, I would die." Mavis, I didn't lie to you. Without you, I really will die. Marius extra story. Julian said I was a scoundrel, coveting even my good brother's wife. But I never, ever thought of him as a brother. Who would consider a rival in love a brother? If it weren't for stealing her away, I wouldn't have invested in him at all. I went to Mavis S. Elementary School, but she doesn't remember me at all. Only I have kept remembering her, remembering how she paid for 5 loaves of bread for me at the supermarket, and even shared a cup of her yogurt with me. That was the most delicious breakfast I ever had. I wanted to return the money to her, but was Julian warned, saying Mavis was his sister and to stay away from her, or else he'd beat me up. My mother had me out of wedlock. Because of me, she broke ties with her parents and left her hometown with me in tow. Years of depression and physical deterioration led to her passing when I was in 3rd grade. I was adopted by my mother's close friend who had been living with her. When I was 12, My biological father sent someone to find me, wanting to take me back to acknowledge my roots. Truthfully, I didn't want to go with him, but my godmother, she's holding me back from finding a good match, and besides, I have my own selfish reasons too, just like my maternal grandparents. They never showed any warmth toward my biological mother or me, yet they're all affectionate and fond of my aunt and cousin, because my aunt married a capable man, and her in-laws' family is quite well off financially. As long as I have money and power, I'm sure I can win my future mother-in-law's approval and marry the girl I love. My father originally wanted me to study abroad. When I found out Mavis and Julian went to University A, I also went to University A. My father played around too much and ruined his health. Over 50 years old, he only has me as his son, so he couldn't win against me either. At the freshman welcome party, Mavis wore a red dress and performed a classical dance. That slender waist, those long legs left me parched with desire. She's truly perfect in every way, except for her poor eyesight. I'm clearly handsomer than Julian, richer than Julian, yet after hovering under her nose for so long, she still didn't remember me. I even played the hero, driving away the delinquents who were harassing her, yet she didn't even remember my name. So frustrating. Mavis married Julian, and my heart shattered into pieces. I really want to crash the wedding and steal the bride, but in today's law-abiding society, even if I snatched her away, I couldn't keep her. I can't be her prince, only her knight. When I found out Julian was starting a business, I invested in him. When several shareholders gathered for dinner, I asked him to bring his family along. Only then could I Mavis sit at the same table for a meal and even add her on WeChat. Watching her be tender and attentive to Julian, my heart felt as sour as if I'd eaten wild jujubes. I didn't want to see her being kind to other men, even if that man was her husband. Yet I still longed to see her. Such was my self-torment. I harbored unspeakable little thoughts, kept them hidden year after year, until finally I waited for Julian to lose his memory. I let Mavis know about his deception. Mavis got into a car accident, and I was so scared my heart nearly stopped. Luckily, she wasn't hurt, just had a little problem with her head. She called me husband. That husband sounded so sweet. I brought her back to my home, faced with her seduction. I really wanted to strip her and bully her fiercely, but if Mavis remembers, she'll definitely hate me. I don't want her to hate me. I can't take advantage of someone in a vulnerable state. So I could only lock the door every night to prevent myself from losing control and giving in to animalistic urges. Mavis texted me, saying an acquaintance had asked her out. I knew some things couldn't stay hidden forever. What's stolen must eventually be returned. I'm terrified Mavis will find out I lied to her, hate me, and despise me. So I rushed to the dessert shop in a panic. Julian and his little mistress were there too. Mavis threw herself at me, and secretly delighted. I couldn't help but reach out and wrap my arm around her waist right in front of her husband. Mavis accused me of cheating, and my heart skipped a beat in fear as I hurriedly denied it. But when I saw the pregnancy test, I was overjoyed. Julian got his mistress pregnant while claiming to love his wife the most. Screw your wife. From now on, your wife is my wife, and I won't let go. Mavis didn't lose her memory. She slept with me. The first time I didn't perform well, and I could tell she wasn't very satisfied, so I pulled her in for a second round, and by the third time, I could see she actually enjoys this kind of thing. So in order to win my wife's heart, I even specifically sought out films to study and learn from. Mavis divorced Julian, and when I confessed my feelings to her, she rejected me. She thinks that since I can hang out with people like Julian Larry, I must not be a good person either. And to even covet a married woman, that's just trashy. So she wanted to draw a clear line with me and told me not to bother her anymore. Of course, I wasn't about to obey. I showed up at her place every other day, looking for chances to stay. If she didn't want to talk love with me, then I'd settle for something more physical. Through my diligent efforts, it finally bore fruit. Twins. If there was only one child, Mavis planned to keep the child but not the father. But with 2 children, she didn't want to reduce the pregnancy. So she had to make me official. Of course, I also let her see this diary. I was sincere. I love her more than anyone else in this world. We'll be a happy family of 4 in the future.